What's up, Fox? Den Fox here, and today I am talking about the Razer Huntsman Elite. I did a review on this a few years ago before I really knew how to review things, and people called me out on it. So I wanted to do an updated review. After having it as my daily driver for 2 years, I want to talk about the pros and cons of it. Obviously, the honeymoon phase has sort of washed over since this point, but if you're considering getting one of Razer's top-end keyboards, I will tell you whether it's worth it. So the way I rank things usually in terms of keyboards is allotting a certain amount of points to certain categories. For instance, in this one, I'm going to be doing 10 points for gaming performance, 10 points for typing, 5 points for features, and 5 points for value. For a total of 30, we'll average that and put it out of 10 at the end of the video. So starting off with gaming performance. This keyboard is meant for gaming. There is no way around it. The optomechanical switches have a fantastic tactile bump for gaming especially, and in terms of the response time, you're not going to get a faster keyboard than this. It is not wireless if that is something for you, but if you're okay with plugging in 2 USBs into your computer, this is one of the fastest keyboards you can possibly get, and from my years of using it, I've had a fantastic time playing games with it. I wouldn't trade it for anything in terms of gaming. It is one of the best mechanical keyboards out there. So I'm gonna give it a 10 in terms of gaming performance. This is an awesome keyboard. Typing, on the other hand, not so much. I'm going to do this like the American grading system, so that way if something's average, it's not going to tank the entire average down. So typing is going to get a 7. It is something that you can write your theses on. I've done that before, but it's not the most comfortable thing to type on. Because of the tactile bump for gaming, it actually is a bit fatiguing to write on over time, and you will find yourself maybe getting tired here and there, or maybe I just have extremely weak fingers. But I have used other keyboards, and for instance, I have a Razer Pro Type review you can check out right here, which is just a straight up typing keyboard. This is not a keyboard you want to buy if you type a lot. I think that if you game a lot and type a lot, you should probably think of something else somewhere in the middle, like a Cherry MX Blue, red or brown, and you should do your research through there. This is a gaming keyboard, and typing, although it isn't uncomfortable, just isn't a fantastic experience, and I think that a lot of people may struggle with slowdown in terms of getting used to this sort of typing mechanism. But it also isn't inherently bad. There is much worse keyboards to type on out there, and if maybe you're used to typing on a Cherry MX, then you will have no issues with typing on the optomechanical switch. But for me personally, I find that it is a bit too tactile, too high up to be comfortable to type on, whereas regular typing keyboards with browns in them have such a much further travel distance down before they click. So it gets a 7 in that category. So let's talk about the functions and features of this keyboard. Starting off, we do have 2 USBs, but that's because we have a wrist rest that is RGB and magnetic to the keyboard. If you don't have a wrist rest for your keyboard right now, I don't care what brand it is, I'm not sponsored by Razer, just get one. But this wrist pad in and of itself isn't probably worth the $50 that it costs extra to get it compared to just the regular Huntsman, but it is probably worth like $35 in my opinion. I think that this is one of the best wrist rests you can buy for one reason only. It is flat and made of a comfy leather. So that's all I could ever ask for in a wrist rest, and I think that it is a great feature for a keyboard of this price. You're also getting Razer Chroma RGB support, and it depends on what you think of Razer, if this is a good thing or a bad thing. For me, their Chroma software really has given me some issues in the day, and it does get a little annoying, but in terms of overall RGB, you're getting the full color spectrum, and you can pretty much make it however you want. And what's really cool is if you play certain video games that have support for Razer, it will actually make profiles on your keyboard for the games you're playing. For instance, Doom Eternal has one, Fortnite has one, and that sort of customization is pretty awesome. And in the top right corner, I have 3 buttons and a volume button. Now, every button on this computer can be rewritten to macros through the Razer Synapse software that also controls the RGB, and they do not feel as good as any other key on the board. They are made of plastic, however, I haven't had any issues with them. What I have had issues with is the volume rocker. The volume rocker, a concept, is actually pretty good. I'm not gonna lie about that. I actually really like having it, so that way I don't have to press function and then find the arrow keys on the F11 or F12 or whatever. So having it be a volume rocker actually is quite good. The only problem is, after so long of using it, even after cleaning it multiple times, the rocker starts to break. Mine has. I don't know if this is a common occurrence, but mine has broken. However, could be due to negligence or something. I use my volume rocker all the time, depending on what I'm doing, so I use it a lot, and unfortunately, it isn't broken by any stretch of the imaginations. It's just sensitive, so if you scroll up, sometimes it'll scroll back down on accident, so it can be annoying, but I don't think it's a deal breaker for this keyboard, and I don't think that problem is going to be universal. But the final score in the terms of functions, I think this gets a 5 out of 5. Even though I don't like Razer software sometimes, it has done a great job. I love the sync to video games. I love that you can program it however you want. I love that you can make macros, and it's very easy to make macro commands on it. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. But for the price, you should expect a 5 out of 5 in terms of functions, because you have to separate yourself from the pack. And that leads us very nicely into the last category, value. I've talked about price a few times in this, and I have kept it hidden for a reason. Of course, you probably Googled it in the process, but the Razer Huntsman Elite with the wrist rest is $200. The Razer Huntsman Elite V2 is $250. I have no experience with that. I don't know what makes it better than my Razer Huntsman. It probably is not a whole lot. The Huntsman Elite without the wrist rest is $150. And Razer does sell wrist rests for about $30. So technically you could save money, but the wrist rests that they sell, unfortunately, are slanted at an angle and don't look as comfortable. So I think that if you were to buy a wrist rest, just don't buy it from Razer, but get the Huntsman instead. And at $200, you're really going up against a lot of competition. You aren't getting into like specialty key territory at that price where there's like, I think it's called like ice creams or something like that. You're still getting the Reds, probably the most common in this price range, from probably Corsair, or that's not the right brand. Probably Logitech as well, things like that. Generally speaking though, I think that in terms of getting all of those together, the functionality of this keyboard is great. You can probably spend $50 less to get some red switches. Maybe you don't care about the wrist rest. And Razer does have a Razer tax, like an Apple tax. You're buying it for the Razer name. And honestly, though, I think that in terms of value, this isn't the worst value proposition. There are much more expensive keyboards that do the same thing. And there are also cheaper keyboards that probably do the same thing as well. So keep an eye on it. See the prices, look around at your sort of like favorite things. If you want to be a typer or a gamer typer, you probably don't want to use this keyboard for typing a lot. So keep that in mind as well. But if you're just a college student who needs to do papers every now and again, it's not that big of a deal to use these switches for typing. For gaming, I just don't think you're going to get a better option than this. Probably even options across the board, maybe for a little cheaper here and there. But I think that in terms of value, I will give this a 4 because $200 is a very big ask. But if, in my personal opinion, I think that it's worth it. It hasn't broken. Over the 2 years I've used it and used it hard. The wrist rest is amazing. The keys feel absolutely amazing. You're getting Razer RGB support. You're also getting a warranty. I mean, they do a great job on their products now. It's not nearly as bad as it used to be. So I definitely am going to give this a recommendation. But as you can tell by the look on my face, it isn't a blanket recommendation. If you game more than you write, I think that this is a great keyboard for you. We can probably also do fine getting a keyboard with Reds around this same price or cheaper. But if you like Razer, or if you just want a top-of-the-line keyboard with extremely fast response times, I think that this keyboard does that job. So I will give it a recommendation. The final score would be an 86, divided with all the categories in terms of a percentage. So that is a B. But it's a strong B. I think that it probably deserves an A, in my opinion. I rounded up on my last video. I think I'm going to round up on this video as well. I would recommend it, but for a lot of people, this could be a B keyboard. It's too expensive. I mean, that is just how it goes. if you aren't willing to spend a luxury tax, I completely understand. Gaming is a lot of my life. I try to make a living out of it, so I wanted to get the best of the best, and you don't need the best of the best to be a gaming YouTuber, trust me. But if you're looking for something on the high end, I don't think you can go wrong with this keyboard, and like I said, I definitely recommend it. So, thank you very much for watching this video. If you like this video, like, subscribe, do what you usually do, and as always, buy yourself something nice.